what is it called? The midway was open, the main way. I don't know. I did not grow up going to the state fair because I'm not from Texas, but we did get to ride some rides, which was really fun. It was included in the ticket. And then I got a corny dog from Fletcher's, which was so good. I waited 45 minutes in the cold for that corny dog and then passed like other stands on the way out that had no line and felt really dumb. So there you go. There's other places to get it other than the big Fletcher's stand that still says Fletcher's, so I'm assuming it's just as good. Hot tip for you at the Texas State Fair. Hi everyone, my name is Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 46 of the Love in Stitches podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. Welcome back after a small break from podcasting. I think it's been, at least 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks since I did my last podcast. So of course I have lots and lots to tell you. First of all, it's January, it's 2020. It's still really hard for me to even remember to say 2020. It's so weird that it's a new year. Also, I am in North Texas and it is hot. I'm sweating. I kind of wish I had turned the air conditioning on. It says it's 67 in here, but it is hot. It's been in the 60s. The past couple days, and I think it's gonna cool off a little bit over the weekend, but it doesn't feel like January at all. It definitely feels like Texas, but it was still cold in the morning, so I actually have been wearing lots and lots of hand knits. I already have taken these off, but earlier today when I went to work, I was wearing my Texture Time shawl, which is a pattern by Stephen West. It was the mystery knit along in 2018. So big and cozy. I was wearing that on my way into work, but pretty quickly took that off. But all day I was wearing my new favorite sweater, which I just finished in December, my Like a Cloud cardigan by Joji Locatelli. So having worn this sweater so many times, I've already washed it once, since the initial wash and block. Some things that I've observed is it really does stretch out a lot, which is not a bad thing. It really just stretches out and lays so nicely. The sleeves, I think you can tell where my elbows are and stuff. And also the sleeves have gotten so long, I've taken to cuffing them and they're getting little cuff indentations where I tend to always cuff it. But I love this sweater so much. I actually need to wash it again because actually, wool and whatever else this is made of, mohair, all the natural fibers are so incredible because I wore this when we went to dinner at a Korean barbecue place, which anytime you go to a restaurant where there's a lot cooking going on actually in the restaurant part, the food smell kind of permeates and gets into your clothes and your hair. And definitely when I came home that night and the next day I could smell it on my clothes. But the amazing thing about natural fibers is they kind of air out themselves so much more than your regular clothes. So this actually doesn't smell like food anymore, but I still feel like I should probably wash that soon. So many makes getting worn, even though it's still kind of hot here in Texas. Okay, I have not that many finished objects, but lots of stuff to catch you up on. So this might be a little bit of a longer episode, maybe, I'm not sure. But also if you hear anything in the background, my husband Kent is upstairs, just one flight of stairs up, and he is cooking our dinner, which I am so super grateful for. I kind of helped him a little bit. I chopped up some vegetables, but he's the one who's watching over it for the next hour because it's red beans and rice and the beans and everything need to cook and be stirred. And so he is being amazing, obviously, and cooking our dinner. Also, he is being quiet. He's literally watching TV through his Xbox headphones so that I can record this now. So yeah. If there's any little noise, I told him, don't worry. I mean, he's obviously gonna try not to stomp around, but if I told him, don't worry too much about background noise, this is what life just happens sometimes. So how can I say no when he is cooking dinner, right? Okay, so let's talk about finished objects. So I did finish my December socks. They were Christmas color, and I'm not showing them to you because I can't find them. I finished them, I blocked them. I have a picture on my Instagram, and I'll put that picture in here, of course. And then I remember taking them off the blockers, folding them up, and meaning to take them upstairs to my box of socks in my closet. But I don't know what has happened to them since then. So I don't have them here to show you, but believe me, they're just a plain vanilla pair of socks. I did make them with a sock blank, so they were super squiggly and ugly looking when I was done, but I let them soak extra long when I blocked them, and then of course put them on my sock blockers, and they look totally normal. Like I knit with a normal skein of yarn now. So super happy with how those turned out. I'm putting them away until next Christmas anyway because I don't need to wear them between now and then. Okay, I thought I might know where they are for a second, but they're not in there. So anyway, I finished those December 31st, I think, like right before the end of the month. So that was, you know, just in the nick of time. But I've also finished since then tons of granny squares. So these are all from my advent calendar, which I got from Dragon Horde Yarn and Yarn Cafe Creations. And I have them in here. These are actually all the ones that I got in 2018, and these are all the ones that I got in 2019. So I've done their advent calendar for 2 years now. It's Harry Potter themed, and last year was year 2 and this year was year 3. So I don't know which ones I've finished since you have last seen them, because I think the date of the last podcast was like December 19th maybe, which means I recorded it on the 17th. So it has been a while. So I'm just gonna kind of show different ones to you while I'm talking. So this pattern here is just a granny square, but if you want to follow it exactly, I have it up. Oops, this one needs ends woven into. Actually, no, it needs the ends woven in. Look at that one. If you want to do this exactly the way that I have done it with the same number of stitches and everything, it is free in many places. I've got a YouTube video, I have a blog post with a photo tutorial, and I have a free download on Ravelry. So you can get it in all of those places, but I made 24 beautiful granny squares, and one day I do intend to make these into a blanket. Okay, I think I'll stop there. I remember showing that one to you. So for right now, they're just gonna be here in this cool little wire rack, and I'm gonna put them up top there for display. Now, if you have a really good eye and a really good memory, you might notice that things look a little different in the shelves behind me here. And I'm just gonna let that sit there and kind of tease you a little bit, and later in the month you will find out what I have done here. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Okay, so basically those are my only finished objects, socks and granny squares. That was what December was all about. So now we're into January, and I have cast on some new things and started working on some things. So first I cast on a new pair of socks, which I've got in my cute little Dobby is a Free Elf bag. And on January 1st was when I was ready to cast these on, and I needed something that was already wound up and ready to go. So I picked this yarn. This is a Regia Perfect by Regia, or Regia, I still don't know, but the line is Arne and Carlos. So these are a self-patterning sock and ball. It's like one continuous strand that does this pattern here. So that's pretty cool. I've done one other set of Perfect socks. Actually, my Christmas socks last year were Perfect. Regia is a really, really sturdy, woolly yarn. It's a little bit thicker than like Indie bases. So the way that this works, and I'm going off of memory here, when I did my first one, on the inside of the label there are directions, and also Arne and Carlos have a video on their YouTube channel. But the trickiest thing is that you need to remember to start from the inside. With skeins like this, I never really start on the inside, so make sure to start on the inside. Hope I'm telling you this right. And then the whole first chunk will be your cuff. So these do need to be from the cuff down. I guess they don't have to be, but it works way better that way. So the whole first part would be your cuff, and then you would have a whole chunk of patterning, which would be your leg, and then you would hit another spot where there's a solid, and that would be your heel, and then another set of pattern, which would be your foot, and then another set of solid, which would be your toe. It sounds pretty great, right? Except that how can one ball of yarn work for everyone's feet? And that is not the case. So this is probably the last one of these I will ever have. I probably won't buy any more like this because they just don't work great for me. So you can see I did my normal 60 stitches on US size 1s, and you can see that this is a pretty long cuff. I like to do 20 rounds on my cuff. This is actually 25 rounds of ribbing, and then this was also part of the cuff. Now I kind of studied this a little bit here, and you can see that there's going to be some white in that. So I just decided after 25 rounds that was enough ribbing, and I would do a few rounds of the white. I did pull the yarn out to see the blue was coming to make that decision, and I'll make sure to repeat that on my other sock. So now I'm into the pattern part. But I remember from when I did those Christmas socks last year that the leg ended up being super long, like way longer than I would normally make mine. I usually do 40 rounds of stockinette for my leg, sometimes 20. So yeah, this is probably gonna be way too long. I think that this yarn is best designed for wider socks, like 64 stitches or maybe even 72. If you think about it, I mean, it's two men that designed the yarn, so they're, you know, probably thinking like two men who knit socks. Maybe, I mean, I'm just assuming. They're totally brilliant, but for my feet, this is just not the greatest. So what happens is you'll have a really long leg, and then you'll do the heel, and you're probably not going to use up all of that yarn, all of the solid color yarn for the heel, so then you end up having to cut your yarn so that you can get back to the pattern to do the foot. It doesn't look like that's what they did on here. They just did more white, and I really don't like how that looks. I don't think that looks good. So I won't be doing that. I will be cutting my yarn to do the heel, and then you do your foot, and of course you have to so I guess if you have a long foot, you actually reach the white again and, you know, finish the rounds to your foot and then do your toe and cut, and you're good. And then you just pull until you get to the next pattern, repeat for the next sock. But for me, I need to end my foot like before the patterning ends. So I can choose to do part of my toe in the pattern, or I can, again, cut my yarn and start in the white for the toes. So basically what I'm saying is, having this ball of yarn doesn't eliminate any ends. If you, for me, for my size, if I want to make socks how I normally do them, I might as well just get a self-patterning yarn and another ball of contrast, because I'll have the same number of ends. So that's just my take on it. Obviously, I'm still making the socks because I do really think this is a super cool yarn. But before you break into one, if you already have it or you buy it, I feel like you should know those things that I have gleaned from making only one pair, my second pair. So I might do something different with these. I might end up making like shorty socks or cutting in an afterthought heel, but I haven't decided yet. So for right now, I am just working into the pattern. It's so cool. This to me just seemed very wintry. It's got like the red and the blue and just like a rugged, wintry, like Icelandic sweater is what it reminded me of. So I am super excited to continue working on those. I did a lot today while I was at professional development at work. So hopefully I can continue to work on those at work. Actually, I need to change the bag out. No, that's not true. I've got my little school bag that I can clip onto my jeans tomorrow morning for my morning duty when the students come back. Okay, something else I have been working on is finally putting some time into my two-tone Playtime Shawl. So I am really loving how this is looking. This is something that I like started and ripped and kept making mistakes on my own pattern several times in December. But look at it now. I am just loving how these two colors are looking. together. I'm loving the depth that it gives to this design, which was originally in one solid color, which is still beautiful. But this is looking very, very cool. So I'm planning to make the larger version, I think. So that would mean I've done 3 sets of these crisscrosses. I will have 1 more set of crisscrosses to go. And I'm weighing my yarn as I go to make sure that I can do that. And if not, I will end up just making, basically I'll just finish out this, like, see this section here? I'll do that again, and then I will do a border. And the border is going to be in this like contrast in the green. And I'll have plenty of yarn to make it that size. So it's looking so, so pretty. I can't wait to block it when I do. Those crisscrosses are gonna just stretch out and they're gonna look so amazing. This is really, it's called Playtime because it's so much fun. It really is so much fun to do. And I'm especially enjoying using single ply yarn to crochet with. I think this is the first time I've used single ply yarn to crochet, and it's just as dreamy as using single ply to knit. I'm using 2 colors, 2 different brands. This one is Ching Fiber and it is denim. That's my main color here. And then the other one, hang on, snap that back in. The other one is a local Texas dyer, Chasing Rabbits Fiber Company, in the colorway Olivine. So really, really loving that so much. I am using, hold on, snap into place. I'm using a size G crochet hook, my favorite Clover Amours. I always forget, but it's one of those. They're my favorite. So there we go. Playtime Shawl, getting close to the end. I would like to finish it up soon. I'm hopefully gonna have some time to work on this tonight. Really, really hoping so. And I'm carrying it in my 2 skein size float tote, which has worked out really, really well. The shawl is getting big, but as the shawl gets bigger, the balls of yarn get smaller. So it kind of works out in that way. Okay, the other thing that I have been working on is also a crochet project. It is a scrappy blanket that I have brought out of hibernation as part of a sort of impromptu make-along that I am hosting in January, runs a little bit into February. I'm going to talk more about the make-along later on in my kind of news section, but I want to show you my blanket right now. So hold on, I got to bend down and grab it off the floor because I was too lazy to bring over another table. Okay, so here is my granny stripe blanket. It is very, very wide. I'm holding it folded in half here. I have details of what I did on my project page, but the pattern originally is Granny Stripes from Lucy of Attic 24. It's a free pattern, and I think hers was in DK weight. But then I don't know who started this trend many years ago. Somebody started making, using the same pattern but with fingering weight and making it scrappy with their leftovers, and it just like blew up. And so of course I started one, I think 2 years ago. But I believe I started with 302 stitches on a size E hook, but then I switched to a D. So what I'm actually using is a D 3.25 millimeters. Again, that clover hook that I love so very much. And I started with the E because I did some swatching to see like how, basically what my gauge would be and how many stitches I would want total for my blanket. And I realized that if I chained and then crocheted with the same size, I was getting kind of that bowing effect. So I started with a larger hook. That's the only reason. That's the only part of the project I used it for. So I have been working on this project for 30 minutes a day, and I'm planning to do that every day for 30 days. And that is the premise of the whole make along, which again I will tell you about in more detail in a little bit. So this just started on Sunday, and unfortunately I cannot get very much done in 30 minutes. That's not true. It's 30 minutes of work, but I was hoping I could get at least a stripe, which is 2 rows done, but turns out I can get about 1.5 stripes done in 30 minutes. But you know what? That's more than I was getting done when I wasn't working on this project at all for like a whole year. So since Sunday, I've spent 30 minutes a day, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, so 3 days worth. I have gotten that much done, which is really I got this row, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm coming right back across on that last color there, which I will work on tomorrow. So it's been really fun. I'm so excited to get this project back out. I keep ripping out stitches as I'm moving it around, but that's how long it is so far. I think it's about 20 inches long. Obviously needs to be much, much longer to balance out how wide it is. Maybe 80 inches I'll go for. I don't know, maybe longer. We'll just have to see. But I'm just gonna be working on it every day until February 3rd, because that'll be 30 days. So if you are interested in doing a little challenge to get yourself motivated to work on a project that you have maybe been neglecting, like I've neglected this granny stripe blanket, then stay tuned a little later on in the episode to hear more details of how you can join us for that. Okay, I'm going to answer a few questions from my Ask Me thread on Ravelry and kind of catch up with those. So if you have questions for me, I love to answer them because it gets me talking about something different than I already have planned, which is always a good thing. Just go on Ravelry to the Love and Stitches Ravelry group and find the Ask Me thread, which is pinned to the top, so it should be pretty easy to find. Okay, so a few questions here. The first one is from Athena Hand Knits, and she says, "Hi Natalie, in one of your Vlogmas posts you try on a variety of glasses. What website are they from?" This was from 20 days ago. I am so sorry it's taken me, I guess it's been that long since I've podcasted, but I'm here to answer your question. So in my Vlogmas and also you heard about this on the last podcast, I've been going through getting new glasses, new contacts, just so many things with my eyes. I'm finally done and I'm done talking about it. But I got some new glasses and I really like them. The glasses that I tried on were from Warby Parker. I would totally recommend doing their home try on. It's absolutely free. I did decide to buy one of the pairs of glasses that I tried on. I'm seeing right now with my insurance if I can get reimbursed for that pair of glasses, and if I can, I am happily going to purchase another pair of Warby Parker glasses out of my own pocket because I really like the ones that I got. So yeah, that's where they're from. I ended up getting this really cute pink pair. When they first came, they felt a little tight on me, but after I wore them for a few days, they have loosened up and they feel very comfortable. So I'm really pleased with them. They look super cute, they stay on great, and I'm gonna try to wear my glasses more often and not just wear my contacts every day. That was the goal of getting new and cute glasses. So Warby Parker, I would highly recommend it. This one is from Knit Crochet Dreamin'. She says, in your December 19th Vlogmas, you showed your Like a Cloud sweater after it had been blocked, which funnily enough, I just showed you guys that now. It looked like it was approximately 4 inches longer. Did you purposely stop knitting at a certain length because you knew it would extend out that much more before you made it? Did the pattern state that, or did you just do it by chance? And is it still just as fluffy soft? Well, let me just grab it again because it's right here on the floor. So, why did I know to stop knitting? Because it did grow. It grew a lot. I don't know exactly how much it grew because I did not measure it before and after, but I did wear it before I blocked it, and then I've been wearing it after I blocked it, and it did grow a lot. 4 inches is probably about right. It probably didn't grow that much with blocking, but after blocking and then wear, it probably has grown 4 inches. So actually the pattern does state to knit it, I think it was 2 inches less than your desired length because it would grow. So I didn't have to guess on that. The pattern told me so. What I've learned also from making a handful of sweaters, I don't make a ton of garments. I'd like to change that. But anything that I have made that has like wool, merino wool, especially anything that is superwash, it does grow with blocking and then it grows with wear. So stopping short at maybe an inch or two is not a bad idea with some yarns and some like fabrics that you make. So this was something that was kind of like, what's the right word for it? It kind of made like a warped almost look. So that did stretch out a lot. you can kind of see, imagine it's scrunched up a little more. That did stretch out a lot. So that patterning, like the knits and purls, did make for a fabric that would stretch out more, but that's been totally fine. It is still just as soft and cuddly. I wouldn't say it's as like fluffy, which is not a bad thing. Like the halo is not as crazy because those little mohair things, they kind of break off, you know, with wear and with wash. It does pill quite a bit. I've just been picking them off, but that's, see, let me get this one off of there. I don't need that. So yeah, so that does happen with time, but it's still just as comfortable. It is like light as air. It feels amazing to wear. I was thinking that on my drive home when I was wearing this, like this is so comfortable and light and airy. I love this sweater. I really do love it. So did I answer all those questions? Yes, it's still just as fluffy soft. It is amazing. Okay, T. Margelson, I think is how you say it. She says, hi Natalie, love your podcast and tutorials. How do you put together your granny squares, Tony? That's a good question, Tony. I have not put my granny squares together yet. I have an idea of what I'm gonna do. I would like to try a join as you go method. Basically, I'm gonna pick like a solid color, something neutral like gray or white. And basically, I think what you do is you make one more round like to the corner, or one, you go 3 times. Let me grab a square. I watched a video on this. I watched Corner of Craft's tutorial on this. Corner of Craft has a video tutorial. So I think what you do is you work like around 3 sides and then you get another granny square and you do these 2 together. And then, I don't know how it works. Maybe you have to do one whole one first, but essentially as you join them, you are making one more round around them so that they're like spaced out a little bit and they have a round in between them. So that's what I'm planning to do. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it. I'm not really like in a rush to get to it, so it probably won't be this year, to be honest. I am planning to get another advent for this year, and so I'll make more squares, and then maybe at that point I'll have 48 plus 24, what is that? 68, 72. I'll have 72 squares at that point, and then maybe I'll consider putting them together into a blanket. But at this point, I'm in no rush, but definitely check out Corner of Craft and YouTube in general for join as you go granny square techniques. I think that's the way I want to go on that. Okay, there's one more question that I'm going to answer real quick. And this one is from Nature's Cozy. She says, hey Natalie, love your podcast and had a question about how much you knit and crochet. I know you sneak in some time at work, but how much time do you knit and crochet at home? I'm trying to find more of a balance between knitting, housework, exercising, but can't seem to migrate away from my needles whenever I have free time. From watching your Vlogmas, it seems like you have a nice balance between making and non-making, and I was wondering if you have any advice about how you fit everything in. You guys, if you've watched anything from YouTube to my Instagram stories, you know that I love kind of like organizing and scheduling, and I don't know, I just love that. Whatever the word is for all of that, I love it. So I definitely have some ideas for you. I was actually thinking that it would be fun to kind of talk about organization in the span of like a week and how I frame my week, but that's too much for this podcast now. So maybe that's coming in the future. I've been thinking about that lately. So that's interesting that that was a question. But I do try to balance, and I bet a lot of you can relate that you want to do so many things, but you can't do everything, right? And so you really want to exercise, but then you really want to work on your projects, but then you really want to have a clean house. I totally get it. So how much I knit at home and crochet at home, I actually have kind of like my afternoon from the time I get home from work kind of blocked out. This is a new concept for me that I got from Jordan Page, who's Fun, Cheaper, Free. She's super awesome, organizational queen, productivity queen, budgeting queen. She's amazing. So I did get this idea from her where you block out parts of your day. So the part of my day that's pretty much blocked out is work. That's already blocked for me. I have blocks within that time that I'm at work, but that doesn't really change. It's rigid. I have a firm start time and a firm end time. But the hard part is when you come home from work, or you maybe you are at home and your work day ends, or like your spouse gets home, and so it's like chaos, right? I think that's chaos for everyone that part of the day. So what I've really been trying to work on is my blocks from the time I leave my place of work to the time I go to bed. So for me, I have a goal every day. I want to be done with everything by 8 o'clock, because 8 o'clock I want to be able to sit down on the couch, eat my dinner, work on knitting and crochet, because at 10 o'clock I need to go get in bed. Now that is not perfect, and honestly I'm still working on how that's going to look this year. That's part of kind of like the new year like organization that's going on in my mind, but that's my goal. So 8 o'clock for me would be a hard stop, and then 10 o'clock is another one because I'm going to bed. Now in between, when I leave work at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock, what does that look like? So for me, I want to get all the hard stuff out of the way. So after I get home, it usually takes me till about, I usually get home about 4:45, 5 o'clock. That part of my day is all about taking care of things. So I want to take care of myself by taking, and Toaster by taking him on a quick little walk. Just one lap around the neighborhood takes me like 10-15 minutes. I want to take care of my house by doing whatever my daily chore is. I want to take care of my like lunch and coffee and get everything prepped for the next day, my lunch and breakfast. And if I had to do any errands, I would do them on the way home from work, ideally, because once I'm home, I want to be home. That's just how I am. So that kind of is my like 4 to 6 o'clock block. And then from 6 to 8 o'clock, I am developing that like literally right now. I've been charting that out. So I think that's going to be my time to focus on either my business, my health, or what was the other thing? If I do end up doing a whole video on this, I promise it'll be like really laid out for you. But that's when I'm going to do some of the other things that I need to do. So probably not going to involve much knitting and crochet from 4 to 8 o'clock, but then 8 o'clock is like a stop for me. So maybe for you, 8 o'clock, or not 8 o'clock, but when your kids go to bed, or when all your chores are done for today, there's got to be a point in your day where you're like, all right, what is done is done. It's time for me to relax. Maybe that's when you go like take your shower if you shower at night, or go ahead and clean up your kitchen and sit down on the couch, and you were rewarded by getting out your crochet and knitting. That's the time my husband and I spend together on the couch. Sometimes we watch TV together. Sometimes he plays video games and I watch stuff on my iPad. But usually from about 8 to 10, I get to sit and knit and crochet. So I would say at least an hour and a half, because I'm not like just sitting there that whole time for 2 hours. I do have to get up, and sometimes I'm putting laundry away or cleaning up dishes and stuff like that. But that's when I get most of my knitting and crochet time in. I actually knit more outside of the house, I think, than I ever do inside of the house. That's why socks are so important to me, because they're a perfect on-the-go project. I hope that gave you a couple little tips there. Again, if you would be interested in kind of a more schedule, like how I schedule out everything, maybe that's too much, but if you're interested in that, let me know. That could be something I make a video on like down the road. Okay, so that's it for questions. Now I'm all caught up. So if you have more questions for me, put them in, so I have something to answer next week. But I do have some news surrounding the Love and Stitches realm of things, and the first one is so exciting. Finally, this pattern is coming out, and it has a name. So I started this design in the fall. Connie, who's Chili Knits, who provided the beautiful, beautiful yarn, she put those colors together. My husband actually is the one who helped pick out which 3 colors I would use, and you guys have been dying for these colors, so I really need to go tell him thank you for picking these really awesome ones out. They're totally out of my usual color wheel, but I love them. Okay, anyway, so the name of this pattern, this is the first time I actually have to say it out loud, so don't make fun of me when I pronounce this wrong, because it is not an English word, but it is arquitectura. Now, I think if you were saying it with like more of a Spanish accent, it is a Spanish word, you would say arquitectura, I think, but I don't know because I don't speak Spanish. But you can just say it with a clunky English accent if that's what you have, just like me, arquitectura, which is architecture in Spanish. And Portuguese, somebody told me, so that's pretty cool. But the inspiration behind this is from Gaudi, which is a Barcelonian architect. And so I will have a video, my love letter video, explaining everything about this design, but I will be talking about it probably for the next few weeks on the podcast because it is coming out January 17th, which is a Friday. So this design is a shawl. It has mosaic, it has brioche, and more mosaic and more brioche. It is a triangle, and it is approximately, I think it's like 60 inches long, and it's deep. It's a very deep triangle. So I'm not going to put it on because I'll, ruffle up my microphone and everything, but I'm going to have some pictures, more pictures coming out. My husband was so great to take some pictures of me, and then I'll also have my love letter video so you can find out all about this shawl. But if you have been patiently waiting, thank you so much. It is coming January 17th. Arquitectura. If you want to see my testers versions, I'll also be posting pictures of theirs, but you can look under the hashtag Arquitectura Shawl on Instagram, and there's already several pictures there for you guys to see. Okay, in the same realm, I have a new tutorial video that came out today, and it is mosaic knitting for rule breakers. Now, mosaic knitting is a really cool technique where you basically make something that looks like stranded color work, where you would hold one yarn in each hand, or basically just hold two colors and knit them across the row together, except that you're not doing that. You're actually knitting and slipping so that you only have to use one color at a time. So mosaic knitting is a really great technique, but the reason that my video tutorial is for rule breakers is because in this shawl I break lots of the traditional mosaic knitting rules. One of them is that you would only have 3 stitches together at a time, like the gold and the blue. You would only knit like 3 blues, 3 golds. That would be the max. You would never go more than 3 apart, and I do that. I also do lots of like stacking for you to get this color work appearance, and I space out the mosaic knitting. So definitely a rule breakers situation here. But if you are thinking about knitting this pattern but you're unsure about that mosaic knitting technique, you can actually go watch the video right now. I give you the chart for this without increases and decreases that the shawl needs, but just the chart for this, and walk you through each of the rows. You can see what it looks like on the back. It does look like stranded color work, but I promise you're only working with one color at a time. So you can go and practice that mosaic knitting technique. What's really important is keeping your stitches nice and loose as you basically float across when you slip stitches. The trickier section is actually this one here. This is really, really hard to keep loose, but it's super important because you can see it's already a tighter stitch than the brioche, and so it really needs to be kept as loose as possible for the integrity of the whole shape of the shawl. So that's what that one looks like there on the back. Again, it does span across 5 stitches, so the triangles are a teensy bit easier, so practice on those triangles, and then in the shawl you will of course also get the square chart to make the whole thing. So it's really fun rule breaking for mosaic knitting, but mosaic knitting in general is a really great technique. So go check that video out if you are interested. Okay, now let's talk about the make along. I'm so excited. I'm gonna grab my granny straight blanket again. So I had this random idea like on, I don't know, a few days ago. I was going to say early into January. It's January 7th. I think kind of because I was thinking about goals and things that I want to work on for this month and this year and for my business and just everything. And what came to mind was this blanket and how I hadn't been working on it. And something that has really worked for me to get things done in my life at work and with like chores and anything is to break things down, to put a time to it, to make it fun, to make it a challenge. And so I thought, wouldn't it be fun or wouldn't it be interesting and fun to work on one project for a certain amount of time every day for a certain number of days and just see how far I can get. So that's when I came up with 30 for 30 minutes a day for 30 days, and just to see how much I could do on my granny stripe blanket, because this was a project I used to work on Sundays when I first started it, and I would probably work on it for several hours. I would only work on it on Sundays, and so it got, a few hours of work every week. But that's not something I'm doing anymore. I usually spend the weekend working on things that I need more time for my designs and stuff like that. So I just haven't been taking the time to do scrappy blankets. So I thought, I'll try this challenge. I'm gonna go on Instagram, see if anyone else is interested in joining me, And I put a little poll and I got like almost 200 people. I think it was 193 that said, they would be interested. And so I thought, this is not going to be a true knit along because I'm not going to put any prizes or rules to this. But maybe I'll make a little video, make a hashtag, and so people can just join in. And it seems like it has really taken off. So many of you guys are participating, which is so exciting. If you haven't heard of the Make Along yet, it is not too late to join in because, again, there's no rules. And so you can just start whenever you want, end whenever you want. It doesn't even have to be 30 minutes. It can be like 15 minutes a day for 15 days or 15 minutes a day for as long as I can make it. Whatever you want, just make a goal for yourself and work on something every single day that you set out to do. A lot of people are knitting or crocheting, of course, but other people are cross-stitching. I've seen quilting. I've seen somebody doing yoga every day. Like, you guys are coming up with the most interesting things to do. I have another video that I will try to remember to link. I'm still learning which sides, maybe this one, but I will try to remember to link it so that you can go watch that. It's just a short 10-minute video explaining the whole make along. Also, you can go to the Ravelry group. I actually need to check that out here later. I've seen several people have posted in there just saying what they're making, what their goal is, and how things are going. Really, really casual. Again, no rules, so hop in whenever you want and work for as long as you want to. Something cool that I've seen as people are setting this as like a personal challenge. And so they're doing, like I said, so many different things, but also I've seen several people who are working on multiple projects, which is really cool. Like, I'm gonna just work on my whips every day. I have somebody, I think today was saying they had like 5 whips that were 3/4 of the way done. So if they work 30 minutes a day, not on every whip, but just on one of those unfinished ones, maybe they can finish a lot of them in 30 days. Someone else is working on socks during the week and like, I think a granny stripe blanket on the weekend, because for work, it just makes more sense to bring a small project. So that's been really cool to see how everyone is doing it differently, creating something personal for themselves and getting stuff done, which I love so much. So that is Make 30 for 30. So if you want to see more, again, watch the video, and then you can go on Instagram if you're an Instagram user. Search the hashtag Make 30 for 30. Also, Knit 30 for 30 and Crochet 30 for 30 are being used as well for knit and crochet projects. I did not make a hashtag for any other crafts, but you don't need me to make it. You can make it on your own. So if you want to cross stitch 30 for 30, yoga 30 for 30, quilt 30 for 30, whatever you're doing, start that hashtag. I cannot wait to see what everyone is doing. Okay, so now let's talk about life. So much life has happened since the last podcast on December 17th. I guess it really has been 3 weeks because it's been 20 days. I don't know. I'm not even gonna try to guess. I should have looked before. But basically I had my, the last podcast came out on my last day of school, and I have had a lovely winter break since then. We did start back to work on Monday, but just teachers. And so tomorrow, Wednesday, is the first day that the kids come back. I know they're probably feeling pretty nervous now. I bet lots of parents are yelling at their children out of also anxiety about the school year starting back up and, having to have everything ready, and it's just a crazy time. So hopefully they are getting there. Well, it's kind of late, so maybe they're already having dinner. Maybe they already had dinner and they're getting ready for bed and getting ready to rest and be back at school tomorrow. So I am anticipating myself, because there's a lot of work stress coming up, a lot of different things, different directions, different priorities. And so for myself, I'm mentally preparing tomorrow for that first 30 minutes of the day when I'm grading students to just be cheerful and welcoming and hopefully easing that time in back to school for them. I am so grateful that I am not a classroom teacher anymore. So after I do my morning duty, I am off to work on other things that are on my computer. Speaking of my computer, when I went to work on Monday, I did leave my work computer there over the break. I believe I shut it down. This was a while ago, so I believe I intended to shut it down, and I did not leave it plugged in. I, unplugged everything in my classroom. So I get to work on Monday, and my computer will not turn on. I tried many different things, but as you know, with company computers, there's only so much you can actually access. So I couldn't even open up the battery compartment to take that out. So today, the IT guy, he's amazing. He was working on my computer all day. He got it for me in the morning, and then once we were done with our sessions for the day, I went back to my classroom just like really quick to drop something off. I was literally heading out the door, and I saw my computer was sitting there, but I didn't take the time to check it. So hopefully when I go back tomorrow, I'll have a working computer. It would make work a lot easier if I had that and I didn't lose all of my documents. So anyway, work has officially started back. Kids come tomorrow. It's going to be pretty crazy. But before that, I had my amazing, wonderful, love being a teacher Christmas break. So the first part of the break, I left, school ended on the 19th, on Thursday. I left that day and flew to Florida. I had a really great trip. If you want to see like all the details of the trip and you haven't already watched Vlogmas, go watch days December 19th through the 25th, so you can literally see most of the trip. We left on the 27th, so you got to see almost everything that I did on that trip. We did so many fun things. We went to 2 hockey games, a football game. Even though those didn't go well, we didn't win all of those things. We saw a rocket launch, and then of course we went to Disney World. Disney was great as always. That might have been my last time going to Disney World for a while. I did go a lot in 2019. My husband and I went for the very first time in March for spring break, and then we went twice in the summer, once at Halloween and once at Christmas. So yeah, 5 times last year, which is crazy, amazing, and such a blessing. But our passes expire. They were year-round passes, so they expire in March, and I'm not sure that I will be heading back before then. So it's a little like sad to kind of feel like this would be the last trip for a while. But also with something like that, we had Disneyland passes. Before, it was like you kind of need to take a break from it to miss it again and want to go back. So it'll be fine. We'll do some other trips and stuff, but it was a little bit like bittersweet to leave that trip. It was also a little crazy with family. It was a strange Christmas not to be at someone's home. I've, of course, since moving out of my parents' house almost, 9.5 years ago, I think, I have had Christmases in different places with different people, but it's always been at somebody's home. And this is the very first Christmas I spent not at somebody's home, where we were all in an Airbnb together. So technically we were in someone's home, but nobody actually lived there that was in our group. And it was just different. I mean, we still had the presents and we had a little tree, but it was strange. I don't know why exactly, but it just felt a little lacking for me. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe we can start spending, we'll go back to spending Christmas like with family. Well, we were with family. I don't know what I'm trying to say. At home, like either at our home with my husband's side of the family, or back in Tennessee with my family, because that just is what feels right to me. I'm sure many of you experienced all the ranges of Christmases this year, and what a crazy time that is. After we came home, my whole family came to visit. They drove from Nashville, all three of my siblings, my parents, and a significant other. They all drove in my mom's minivan, the 10 hours from Nashville to Dallas, and they stayed with us for a few days. It was really, really fun. Now, the sole purpose of them coming, not the sole purpose, but the main reason they all did come was the Winter Classic, which, if you're not familiar, is a hockey game played on January 1st every year outdoors. I've definitely watched it on TV before, but this was the first year that Dallas has hosted it. The Dallas Stars hosted, and they just happened to be playing the Nashville team, the Predators. So my family being from Nashville are fans, and so it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity for them to come and go to the game and us to spend that time together. So we had a lot of fun with my family in town. All of my siblings are, they're younger than me, but they're all out of high school. So we can all do fun stuff together. None of us have kids or anything yet. So we all stayed at our house here, and my parents stayed with my mother-in-law just about 10 minutes away, which was perfect. We had the adultier adults and then the young adults over at our house, and we played games and stayed up late one night. We all went to Korean barbecue. We just had a lot of fun. It was really great having my family come visit. And then we of course went to the Winter Classic, which was so cool. It was in a football arena, the Cotton Bowl, which is in our state fairgrounds, and I'd never been in the Cotton Bowl before, so that was really cool. And it was so fun. It was really interesting to watch a hockey game outside. It was cold, like colder than we expected. I think it was temperature wise like between 45 and 50 degrees, but we did not dress for it, and so we were very cold. And it was super windy, and so yeah, no knitting got done on that day, but it was definitely fun to watch. And then the state fairgrounds, what is it called? The Midway was open, the Mainway, I don't know. I did not grow up going to the state fair because I'm not from Texas, but we did get to ride some rides, which was really fun. It was included in the ticket. And then I got a corny dog from Fletcher's, which was so good. I waited 45 minutes in the cold for that corny dog, and then passed like other stands on the way out that had no line and felt really dumb. So there you go. There's other places to get it other than the big Fletcher's stand that still says Fletcher's, so I'm assuming it's just as good. Hot tip for you at the Texas State Fair. But yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on in my life. We had a day or two where we didn't really have to get anything done, and I really just like cleaned up our house, relaxed, got my head organized, and it was really, really great. So now I'm officially back to work. We've also been working a lot at my mother-in-law's on cleaning out her garage with all the junk that we left there when we lived there for a year. So that's been taking up some of our time. And also, before I actually started this, there was something like right behind where the camera is that would not allow me to put my lights and camera and everything here. And so I had it set up, like if you can imagine, over here. So all you saw was like part of this and a blank wall. It looked absolutely awful. Luckily, my husband came home about that time and helped me move what was there that I could not move on my own. But I'm looking behind the camera here, and there's boxes and things that we need to go through. So it kind of feels like a teensy bit like we're moving again, but thank goodness we are not. Okay, I think that is all of the life stuff. So I'm just going to talk about what's bringing me joy, and we'll wrap this up. So bringing me joy this week is definitely having a routine again. I really like routine, and I am working on fine-tuning my routine right now to make sure that everything that is a priority for me in different aspects of life is getting accomplished. Something that Kent and I have been working on is cooking more at home. We've cooked together a couple times, or at least part of the meal together, which has been more fun than I thought it was going to be. I'm not looking forward to waking up early, but having a set time to wake up every day is not a bad thing. And I'm especially enjoying my 30 minutes of make 30 for 30 every day. That's been really fun. So just getting back into the routine of things has been a joy overall, and had a really great break, but I'm also happy to kind of get back to things. So I think that's everything for episode 46. Thank you guys so much for watching.